Please stay tuned.
Do we also take time to ask ourselves, how many of the women standing for women are in touch with local women? How many of them are concerned about the dignity of womanhood? Which women organization have you heard getting up to say, look, I don't think it's right that whenever a musician is playing, it should be naked girls dancing? Or has anybody heard that? Anybody? Those are some of the things. I think 2 years ago, the theme for International Women's Day has something to do with ICT. Does anybody remember the title? Celebrating the fact that more women are using facilities made available by digital technology. That is what we join the rest of the world to celebrate on International Women's Day. And the question is, what percentage of the Nigerian woman belongs to the group that you can say has cause to celebrate this? Should it not occur to our women that time has come for them to also choose a theme for Nigerian Women's Day? Those are some of the things. I chose to put it as background so that the conversation from my end does not limit itself exclusively to the, if you like, superstructural ideas about representation, or when they get to the assembly, this happens, that happens. I thought I should establish that. Having done that, let me start with some of my concluding observations as inferences, then I will resume this thing. I hope I won't take too much time. The special bill presents the Federal Republic of Nigeria with a critical opportunity to advance its democratic development by ensuring that women, who have long been substantially marginalized in political decision-making, are given a better chance to participate. The bill is not just about increasing their numbers in the legislature, but is designed to foster a political environment wherein women's voices, and more importantly, women's capabilities, can influence policy in a meaningful and sustainable way. Therefore, the occasion of our 64th independence anniversary, as far as this proposed bill, challenged the nation to look for ways of building democracy that is at once inclusive, more representative, and designed with new and progressive ideas in the interest of holistic national development. The bill seems to be necessary intervention at the moment, in that it will move most political actors closer to the goal of ensuring that our democracy reflects diversity, strength, and the potential of the entire gamut of the nation's human capital endowments. By embracing this legislative reform, while at the same time monitoring it closely for performance and further fine-tuning, Nigeria can be said to be on the path to greater inclusivity on the importance of a particular demographic group that has so far not contributed enough, or is not allowed or able to contribute enough to national development. Now, with the global response to women's underrepresentation in parliaments and the International Parliamentary Union report that over 100 countries utilize some type of special measure or gender quota to increase the number of women in parliaments, including some African countries like Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Egypt, Morocco, and Tunisia, we say that with this bill, the time has come for Nigeria to join the team. In 2003, a country like Saudi Arabia appointed 30 women into its Shura Council. That today accounts for 20% of the seats represented by women. So there's nothing new about adopting special measures in the form of women-only districts. Provinces exist in Uganda, and each national district has a woman representative in parliament. Kenya has 47 special elective seats created for women in the constitution, to be contested by women only from the country's 47 counties. This means that 47 women must always be directly elected to the National Assembly. And Tanzania, small Tanzania, provides for women to be not less than 30% of their National Assembly. The seats for women are distributed among the political parties in proportion to the number of seats awarded to them in Parliament. These three countries operate a first-past-the-post electoral system like Nigeria. So today, at this roundtable, we have a bill before us to discuss, which is expressing the will of some of our forward-looking lawmakers who proposed it. We also have global examples to learn from, but much more importantly, ladies and gentlemen, we are on the threshold of a new era of political engagement. That new era of political engagement calls for the greatest caution and discernment. And with that, I tell you that the central focus of our conversation today is that bill, sponsored by the Deputy Speaker, Right Honorable Benjamin Kaba. The bill seeks to amend the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to provide seat reservations for women in the National and State Assemblies. So it's not just about the National Assembly. These seats are to be contested for and filled by only women, but only as a temporary measure towards remedying the low representation of women in all the available and all our legislative houses. Now, it also means that this bill is an attempt to create an institutionalized but temporary remedy for Nigeria's unimpressive profile in global gender ranking along party lines. The bill rests on the firm belief that gender inclusivity is essential for fair political representation. But this is with the attendant gains on governance and national development. The point being made here, ladies and gentlemen, is that it is impossible to have a truly balanced and socially stable Nigeria without inclusive political participation through more gender-sensitive and more equitable representation in the legislature. The scope of the bill covers the desire for an increase in the composition of the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the State Houses of Assembly. It seeks the creation of women-only senatorial districts and federal constituencies by the Independent National Electoral Commission with new women-only districts and constituencies that will not tamper with existing ones. For a lot of people, when you hear women-only constituencies, that will generate a sense of panic. That will generate concern. Questions will arise, is it feasible? Why should they go and create more assemblies? Let the women and more districts. Let the women contest for the available seats. The point is that nations that have observed this challenge, that have observed the underrepresentation, have also taken the trouble of taking measures like this to increase the involvement of women. But let me make a quick digression. Before I go into the gender seats as a tool for enhanced inclusivity in Nigeria, the first thing of three things I want to talk about, I want to digress into, is to commend the unflagging commitment of the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, to public engagements that promote the values of responsible leadership, responsible citizenship, and accountable followership or leadership. The second is the timeliness of the conversation we are to have here today. The third, which revolves around our theme of 64 years of independence, is the fact that women inclusivity must be addressed in a comprehensive manner, such that any proposals or policies designed in connection with it will be seen to be institutionalized in its conception, will be seen to be structured in its execution. Because unless you do these two, you will not get lasting and measurable results. So the thrust of the current bill is to achieve both objectives of institutionalization and structured implementation. Now we're talking inclusivity. What really is inclusive democracy? We're told that democracy is a government of the people, by the people, for the people. Do we agree? Have we ever asked the question, which people? If I'm a member of a political party, we're all members of a political party, and some of us decide that you pay 500 million naira to get a nomination form. Is that decision taken by the people? I'm asking, is it? It is. Or those who took it, are they not human beings? It is the decision of those who can pay. Am I correct? Am I correct? So that you find that democratic decisions that are presumably democratic are actually instruments of exclusion. That's the point I want us to note. So that you're running a democracy of those who have money, who can pay, put in place by those who can pay and for the benefit of those who can pay. Because if I pay 500 million to get nomination form, I don't have the 500 million, so Jide contributes 450. You know, it's very wealthy. Anything I need to do in government, I'll get clearance from Jide, true or false. And so governments of those who can pay by those, and contracts will also flow in the same manner. That's the dimension I want us to think about, so that we don't maintain delusional notions of both democracy and inclusivity. Are we on the same page? So, yes. Now, so inclusive democracy refers to a democratic governance model that seeks to give all segments of society some representation in the governance and political decision-making process. And is also about our local communities. If your town union president is the only one taking decisions, he's running the place as it suits him. If the village head or district head doesn't consult anybody, if the Oba doesn't consult anybody, he's losing the human capacity that could enhance his performance and tenure instead of harnessing it. So let's not think democracy just in terms of the contrived representation. If I'm in the National Assembly, and to get to the National Assembly, I spent 2.5 billion, knowing that if I even spend 10 years there, what I'm going to get is 1.8 billion. It means that before going, I have a means of expecting to make more money. Am I correct? Now, she contested because she has issues she wants to deal with in her constituency. I contested because I've told myself I won't come out of this without being 10 billion naira richer. And we're both in the National Assembly. And you're accusing me of not paying attention to the welfare of the people, without asking me whether in going there I was concerned about the people. Do we see another disconnect? Do we see it? You know, if somebody could go to the National Assembly and explain to them how the laws matter, what if? Is there anybody there that's below 35 years of age? People know what they are doing according to your decisions and choices. Therefore, IPAC, with its reputation for truly dedicated commitment to good governance, has a duty to drive this conversation further. Has a duty to set up some kind of monitoring mechanism that will relate with the women and the civil society organizations. Not just the NGOs that are sponsored from outside the country who never cease talking about human rights without asking whether those for whom they are seeking human rights are human. I organized with my friends, we wipe out a village including men and children, women and children, and I'm arrested. And you say, no. You see, you're not respecting the human rights of that bandit. My concern is to first ascertain that he is human. If you can catch a woman and cut open her stomach, carry a child and kill the child by dashing his head against the wall, and you are arrested, and the complaint is that you are arrested without due process, I must be the one who is drinking, and therefore my faculties are not working well. So those are some of the core issues. So that we don't just come here for some kind of cerebral engagement and somebody, oh, it was a good lecture. Meanwhile, nobody will remember anything said in the lecture. True or false? True or false? So inclusive democracy refers to that. It also includes measures taken to ensure that stakeholders, whether they are majority or not, are involved in all social processes that affect their lives. Now, when we speak of stakeholders, it refers to anyone who could be affected by what you're doing or planning. Could. He may not even be aware it will affect him. Who could be affected? So when that holistic perspective is maintained, before any step is taken, you say, okay, we want to build a dam here. Who are the stakeholders? Oh, the village, water will flood the area, so let's move them apart. You forget that when you create a dam, the amount of water flowing downstream reduces by not less than 60 to 70%. There are fishermen downstream. You've eliminated their means of livelihood. They are stakeholders. You didn't think of that. Now, before you build a dam, you know, in the evening, twice a day, the water overflows the banks. It is on those banks that crab survive. So crab farmers, crab hunters, crab traders have also been put out of business. So stakeholding, the concept of stakeholder and stakeholding must be expanded beyond those we think we know, beyond those who are talking a lot, to those who are likely to be impacted one way or another. So this could be with particular reference to women, to religious or ethnic minorities, and even some categories of fringe actors. It therefore follows, ladies and gentlemen, that inclusive politics espouses the core values of political equality, social justice, and wide-spectrum citizen participation. Wide-spectrum citizen participation. And that's why, too, we need to review a lot of our political processes and the actions and activities of those who today are serving us, particularly in the National Assembly. Public hearings. Before a public hearing, am I not supposed as a representative to go to my constituency and raise the matter with them? Am I supposed to? Am I supposed to? If I don't do that, am I representing them well? No. But you call a public hearing maybe on tax reforms or whatever. It takes place in the National Assembly. People like you and I would go. Where is National Assembly? Abuja. How do you come to Abuja? By road or by air? Which of them is cheap? None. What's the total participation in that massive hall? The hall is big. It can contain all Nigerians. It has a total impressive capacity of 500. 500. What I'm saying is that it's not that there's anything wrong with public hearing. We need it. It's not that there's anything wrong with what the National Assembly is doing during public hearings. No. If it doesn't have public hearings, that's where something will be wrong. It is a simple matter of improving participation, ensuring inclusivity by taking the issues to some of those who will be affected, and on the basis of that, you, as their representative, you're better informed, you're in a better position to convey what they think, what they want. But don't forget, they don't understand some of the issues, so it's also your duty to educate them and get them to take a position. Now, this is limited. I mean, during the 1999 to 2003, most legislators had no constituency offices. But we also note today that is no longer so. Why am I saying this? We cannot ignore the instrumental gains of our democracy. And we cannot condemn our democratic actors because they have not attained the status of democratic actors in countries that have been on this business for 200 years. I hope we understand that point. So the key pillars of inclusive democracy are political equality, irrespective of gender, irrespective of ethnic origins, irrespective of socio-political status, and irrespective of the level of education. The other pillar is deliberate measures taken to ensure that visibility and representation of marginalized groups like women, minorities, and people with disabilities is taken as a core issue of development in the state. The third is decentralization of power. The purpose of that is to give lower levels of government and the people some involvement and control, so that decision-making is not dominated by either a distant elite, a national elite, or core majority groups and interests. We speak of public policy. Fantastic. We speak of public interest, and the question is, how much of public policy, how much of public interest is actually private interest? If I'm a state governor, I want to make massive investment in education. And I decide, like one state governor did 5 years ago, to build brand new primary schools in every ward in my state. Not a bad idea, isn't it? Not a bad idea. But that is investment in education infrastructure. After approving that, contracts will be given for the construction of these schools. Am I correct? Will it be given to vulcanizers and traders and market women? No. And elite engagement. And so you find that I have not made arrangements to train teachers. Am I correct? I've not increased their pay. I've not increased learning materials and opportunities, but I've done what I call massive investment in education. Unfortunately, some actually do this without knowing. So it won't be fair to say that that's what. Now, that's the example of the kind of thinking I think should emerge among us. And I'll mention one more example and then get on with the rest of what I have to say. If some of us will recall the last Federal Executive Council meeting of President Buhari after his first 4 years, that council approved the construction of 6 model secondary schools in the 6 geopolitical zones. These model secondary schools were to be exemplary, the best in the country that everybody will emulate. And for that, there was a budget of 4.2 billion. Fantastic idea. I remember I wrote an article titled, "Objection, Mr. President," on the back of this day. 6 model secondary schools to be the best. It's not a bad idea, but how long will it take you to finish it? In the period you're building it, you're likely to review the contract sum. Within the same period, if it takes 5 or 10 years, you will not have produced one piece of human capital to add to the economy. True or false? True or false? Therefore, Mr. President, take that money. We have 100 and something unity schools set up to drive national unity. Some of them don't have fences. Some of them are girls' schools that are unprotected, federal colleges. Take that money, divide it among all the schools. You're going to end up with over 100 model secondary schools. This is the kind of thinking that should dominate the activities of our lawmakers. And I once again commend those who thought of this law, who took time to find out it works elsewhere. And IPAC, if you're embarrassed that I keep talking about you, that's on your own. I'm telling the truth of what I see. Took the trouble to arrange this so that the conversation will be driven further. Please clap for IPAC. Now, the other pillar of inclusivity is deliberative democracy, which encourages wider processes of consultation, wherein diverse perspectives are brought to bear on the decision-making process, then equitable policies. So beyond all of this, there's also the other pillar, which is social and economic equality, and which goes beyond political participation to address issues of economics and social inequities. We can speak of equity. We can speak of all of these things. You want to contest the election, but you don't have money. You won't get anywhere. You won't. If you like, call the police. I had a boss who for 19 years couldn't not pay for nomination form until the era of Babangida's democracy, which lasted 2 years, to come to the National Assembly, and he had to sell his Volvo. So when he became minister, I told him, Honorable Minister, you must understand hegemony building. If somebody like you had been part of a national conversation in the 19 years you were not able to get nomination form, he said, my friend, be careful about how you talk about that 19 years. It would have been different. So when you're in a position, that's what you call. Empower those who represent the values that make sense. And that's why IPAC should take on another assignment. Evaluation of performing women and women organizations in order to provide regular quarterly advisory to all of them. Seek further support funding, advisory for women groups, NAWOD, women lawyers, National Council of Women's Societies, Ministry for Women Affairs. And after listing all these things, you ask yourself, what crime did women commit? What have we done? And let me not take it further, because I may be the one to call police for women right now. So, in doing all of this, since my main task in this keynote address, which I'll soon finish, is to offer a comprehensive overview of the Special Seats Bill and explain some of its provisions and the rationale for its emergence, in addition to exploring and commenting on its workability and potential impact of women, I invite you to know that we are to use this roundtable to collectively reflect on the way forward for our current democratic enterprise, especially in order to ensure that we can make it more inclusive. In doing that, our concern is how to ensure that women with demonstrable capacity in various skill areas do not find themselves at a disadvantage because of a skewed competition template that does not allow them to attain and exercise their full potentials. That's the concern. We are to look for what to suggest to make it easy. We are to point out the obstacle. We are to also bear in mind that with this suggestion, there are people who will not like it. There are all kinds of arguments in that regard. Women do not constitute part of the core managers and owners of the financial resources of the country. So they will also need that kind of partnership. And you can't secure partnership with somebody who thinks you're going to bury him once you have the means. There must be steps to reassure stakeholders, we are in this together, we want to be leveraged, this is the shared value we are going to bring to the table. So let us x-ray the intendments of the Special Seats Bill for greater stakeholder understanding and buy-in. Let us also look at its expected impact on the political representation of women in Nigeria, because this is an opportunity for informed national conversation by political parties, NGOs, CBOs, FBOs, and CSOs for a full appreciation of its import. I deliberately bring in CBOs and FBOs, community-based organizations, and faith-based organizations. These are stronger centers of power than NGOs. Are we aware of that? Are we aware of that? A district head, which is a district head and village head, constitute a center of why you cannot replicate through any form of NGO activity. Town union presidents, ballets, these are the stakeholders we need to get involved. That's a lot more work. That's where real Nigerians reside. And so, we then come to, sorry, one moment. I think somebody's village people have rearranged my papers. And I'm suspecting Wanyang that his cap looks suspicious. You know. So there were the pillars. How did this get disarranged? Sorry, just give me a moment. Okay, so it brings us to what the bill has to offer. The Constitution Alteration Bill seeks to create special seats in the National Assembly which are exclusively reserved for women. It also seeks to create similar seats for women in the state assemblies all over the Federation. It presents this endeavor as a temporary special measure. Temporary. We've seen that women are not sufficiently represented. We can't just carry all of them and point to their National Assembly. We also can't decree that women be permanently given a slot. So let's have a temporary intervention that will increase their representation and which we shall review after 4 election cycles. So this proposal is actually going to be valid in the first instance for 16 years, and that's why I'm telling the women to up their game. In that 16 years, people will be waiting who will want to express views on the need to retain or throw away the bill. These are matters to bear in mind. So it presents this endeavor here to boost the number of women in the legislature because of its potential positive implications within our political landscape. As an aside, let us note that the reserved seats approach, that is the special seats for women, is not new or peculiar to Nigeria. It has been deployed by several nations to ameliorate the limited presence of women demographics in some aspects of their national life. In our own case, the objective is to increase women representation in the National Assembly and state assemblies, very likely in the first instance. And that gives the women the task, as they take advantage of this opportunity, to find out in what other areas this sort of thing can be done. Other approaches towards addressing this sometimes widely acknowledged problem of underrepresentation exist. But what is being proposed for us here fits into our first past the post plurality electoral system. The main point we need to note is that it is a standard global practice to adopt some temporary steps to address inclusivity issues. Such steps usually have an expiration date but they always offer clear compensatory value as a response to unjustified professional profiling, unfair electoral competition, and questionable discrimination against women. So that's why I say we are not just talking about national. Unfair professional profiling. Oh, we need a head engineer. And papers coming, you look at Yunusa, Angelo Okonkwo. Okay, no, but they are women now, move their CV. You get the point I'm making. Unfair and unjustified, because you're talking about engineering, not gender. So where that exists, you find that you have to expand this progressively. Unfortunately, some of those who drive this narrative are unintelligently offensive in their narrations. The moment they begin to speak, you think that men must be a clan of devils, specially sent down to finish them on earth. It never works. And for the woman, the louder you sound, the more aggressive you appear, the more you're disadvantaged. Because the man is louder, he's naturally designed for aggression. Look at his body form. His ego is bigger than the national stadium. Now you go to be putting pin on that ego. The air will blow you out of the neighborhood. Women must learn how to be effective as women. Dignity, grace, sound conversation. Even where there's disagreement with a louder voice, the certainty that your point of view is right will remain a perpetual discomfort. It's also, and you will find that people will go a roundabout way to do that thing without wanting to say you're the one who suggested it. Those are some of the challenges on the table that women must find good ways to navigate. So, but there's also the question of cost. If you're going to have more women in the National Assembly, are they not going to be paid? Are they not going to be paid? They are. So, from the cost analysis of the Special Seats Bill in respect of its implementation, it is easy to see that the cost of an additional 219 new members to the National Assembly can be conveniently borne by the federal government. The numbers on the basis of which the costs were calculated comprise 111 National Assembly members and 108 members of the state assemblies from the 36 states of the Federation. So, all things considered, and if we use a 3-year average covering 2019 to 2021 budgets, the increase in emoluments for these legislators is projected to be at least 0.037 to 0.156% of the national budget. But that's not the issue. The many benefits of creating opportunities for more women to be part of our political process overshadows all of this. And there's this argument, why should you spend more? The question is, why should you not spend more? Now, as we stand on the 64th birthday of Nigeria, part of the good news that we have is that, yes, we've had 25 years of uninterrupted democracy. But assessing the state of that democracy, including the prospects and challenges encountered so far, reveals more that needs to be made good. This is important from the standpoint of inclusivity. It is a fact of our collective historical experience that Nigeria had more inclusivity before 1966 than today. That between 1966 and 1970, there was more inclusivity than we had between 1975 and 1980. Progressive deterioration. And we can't just keep thinking and blaming our politicians. No. There are aspects of national infrastructure that constitute the ingredients of integration and inclusivity. Today, I can speak of moving from Umuahia, Afikpo, Otukpo, Lafia, all the place, Saminaka, Kajuru, to Zaria, because I traveled by rail as a young person. The rail system is the arteries of national unity. It's gone. The roads are bad. Those who ought to fix the roads use private jets. Where there's no private jet, SUV. So you see that inclusivity is not about lawmaking. It's about awareness of the operating environment, the realities within it, and steps you need to take to address it. Those are some of the issues on the table. So, while admitting that democratic governance has been consolidated to some extent, at least in these last 25 years, and I say so deliberately and with every sense of responsibility. Because if you go back to what happened between 2003 and 2007, a lot of it can't happen anymore. People can now come with forged papers and fake results and all of that. So we're making some gains. This is particularly the case when we speak of broad-based participation and representation of women in leadership. It is not right that women, despite constituting half of the population, are substantially underrepresented in our legislative houses. As I speak, I understand that only 4 women are serving in the Senate. And the Senate, I understand, has 7 or 8 members? 109. The bill under reference hopes to attempt to provide something different. So, I've just been issued a warning with threat of violence. Did you notice she eyed me before she left? And she's a woman. So, I will try to round it up very quickly by touching on 1 or 2 things, the rationale and its implications. The rationale behind the special bill is rooted in the undeniable benefits of increased female representation to all of us as a nation. Here in Nigeria, female lawyers have instruments. Lawmakers have been instruments for advancing legislative reforms on issues affecting children, gender-based violence, and national security. You see, you cannot have any assembly where you have women, and the conversation will actually go the way it will go if you have only men. Those are some of the things to consider. Their nature is more subtle. They are more sensitive to a lot of things. We can hold a meeting and plan how to solve the problem of refugees in Borno. I will be talking about mosquito nets, bags of rice, sharing formula. It's very likely a woman that will ask, what do we do about nursing mothers in that refugee camp? True or false? How about so many things? There will be the issue of health for them will not just be the question of first aid. What if there are pregnant women? What if there are women who need antenatal services? So this emphasizes the clear relevance and importance of women involvement. Now, the call for us to improve the presence and visibility of women, there are concerns, and I'll end with that. Without denying the merits of increased female representation in politics, some stakeholders have expressed concerns about the financial implications of creating those seats. They also say that the bill is ill-advised. So my response to that is quite simple. The seats we had today were not created from heaven, true or false. It was a response to a particular historical hour when those in a position to take decisions said, look, we need 3 senatorial seats, X number of a House of Assembly seats, etc. Now, that historical hour was 1999, am I right? How many years have passed? How many decades have passed? So let's avoid the delusional position of saying, oh, you don't increase, why should you increase it? It will cost more. Question, how much will it cost? You do an analysis, it's an extra 5 to 8 billion per annum. So government exists to expend money on things he knows will drive national interest, inclusivity, national development, and holistic human capital development. To that extent, the concern about cost stands, in my view, crippled by the fact that cost cannot be the primary and only consideration for government policy making. True or false? Those who agree with me say aye. Chairman, the ayes have it. So let me round up. I've already presented the counter argument. So, yes. While we note for the record that the introduction of the special bill is supported by international best practices, we must also note the worries of those who fear the impact of greater women involvement in public life on the family, on social morality, and on child upbringing. That's part of what you hear some people, women, the more of them there are, the more you will have bad behavior. My question, I agree with that perspective from an angle I can't develop fully on this platform. But my question is, as we speak today, we've never at any time in our national history had greater overwhelming evidence of bad behavior, immorality, criminality? True or false? Is it because women left their children and went to the National Assembly? So let's think. A people's failure to follow the right paradigms of leadership cannot be blamed on one gender. And when visible people set the wrong examples, you can only speculate, because every replacement generation tries to emulate at least 80% of the generation is about to replace. So, we must also take into account the perspectives of those who, without denying that the countries wherein such measures have worked, warn that we must find a way of ensuring that greater women inclusion in politics does not undermine other social values offered by women whose social significance impact the mores and norms of social cohesion. Thus, the call here is for us not to focus only on deepening and strengthening the democratic government and the governance and women's involvement in it, but for us to seek more holistic approaches to social and national development without also failing to pay attention to the moral and spiritual aspects of our nationhood. There is a concern about implementation of the bill, of course. There is concern about funding. There is a concern about cooperation, among other things. These are logistical details which will be addressed by a well-thought-out set of implementation strategies. And on that note, I need to make a special plea, first to the chairman, because the moderator might be combative. Mr. Chairman, I will finish, but can I have an extra 25 minutes? No. Okay. Okay, good. 5-10 minutes. Thank you. I've just finished. So I've expended the 5-10 minutes. All right. So,
give another round of applause for him. I think he deserves it. It was supposed to take 30 minutes. It took about 49 minutes, and we thoroughly enjoyed it. Thoroughly. If you did, please, all in favor, say aye. Fantastic. The aye have it. A round of applause for him again. And there were so many touch points for me, while listening to him. He said, and it all centered around gender sensitivity and inclusion in legislature. One of the most important things he said was domesticating democracy and leading a grassrooted approach to the action plan. And I think for me that's very important. And he also spoke about amplifying the vulnerable groups at the state level, not just at the national level. And this is something that I think perhaps will be touching points on the panel. I'll quickly want to recognize the presence of Chief Danwaya OFR, Chairman, Senate Labour Party. You're welcome, sir, please. I would also like to recognize Father Atta Bakindo, Executive Secretary, Kuka Center, please. Okay, thank you. And I would also like to recognize Chief Barrister Ken Udeze. He is the Chairman of Action Alliance. And Barrister Rhoda Saders is representing the Director General of National Orientation Agency. Please, a round of applause. So it is now time for us to go into our talking points, and I'm sure that my panel is gearing, so please permit me, audience, to take my seat there and start the conversation in earnest. And I think the first place for us to start is to sort of have an overview of what the keynote speaker has said. And look at the various areas that he spoke about. So I'm going to first start with you, Hajia. And I know that this comes to your heart because even off stage, we've talked about how possible the actualization of extra seats, for women. He spoke about, women having the demeanor to be subtle, to go at this conversation with more mental capacity than aggression. And I remember that Nigerian women mobilized at the National Assembly in 2022 and wanted to break down the gates of National Assembly, saying, we must have it, you must give it to us all. And of course, they turned down all the 5 gender bills, not even one was passed. So that also gives credence to what he's saying. But listening to him, he talks about domesticating democracy and taking this back to the grassroots. How so important is this?
IPAC, a directorate for women affairs is created. Alhaji Yusuf Antele, distinguished gentlemen and women, good morning. Domesticating gender inclusion has come to stay for us because, just I have mentioned, for the first time, IPAC, the body that is recognized, the body of all political parties in Nigeria, the body that is a platform for every politician to contest election is on in Nigeria, has created and institutionalized a platform, yes, for women to actualize their inclusion in politics. And so for me, it has come to stay. The directorate is going to work with political parties to start by making sure that we have more women represented in the national working committees of the political parties. That is, charity begins at home. Of course, if political parties make policies that we have women as treasurers, women as financial secretaries, women as welfare officers, it's like the gender bill in the National Assembly that is seeking for extra seats for women. So we work with political parties to adopt that before we go to National Assembly. And we also lobby that women are given the chance to contest for other offices rather than the traditional woman leader. Who says a woman cannot be a national chairman of a political party? Who says a woman cannot be a national secretary of a political party? So our directorate is working hand in hand with political parties to make sure that charity begins at home. We are also working with first ladies in their various states so that they help us lobby their husbands to create more appointed seats for women, so that prepares, when you have women in appointed positions, it prepares them, it widens their horizon, it exposes them to leadership qualities, which prepares them for elective positions. We are also coming up with a Catch Them Young program. We are going to universities to identify young females who have passion for politics and make sure that we have women in the student union government of various institutions. Yeah, and then women presidents in institutions. We have a lineup of programs to ensure that starts. And we are also working with the office of the Deputy Speaker, okay, who is the champion of our bill. And even yesterday, the directorate paid him a courtesy visit. We won't call it an advocacy visit because you cannot preach to a convert, because he has already taken it as a matter of responsibility to make sure that the bill is passed. And most importantly, we are creating a pool for capable women, because whenever they say give women, now if the bill succeeds, how many capable women, how many women with financial capacity, How many women with leadership capacity do we have? Now we are cascading into a local government, a state, local government. What do you need to make sure that we have structures that will identify capable women and then make them ready for the challenges? As the key speaker has mentioned, this is one of the best approaches. Yes, he asked if we have been advocating, have we adopted, how good are our approaches? Creating a directorate in the IPAC for the women affairs is one of the best approaches that has been adopted because it has institutionalized, it has made it permanent. Because as we all know, soldier come, soldier go. All the associations, all the groups that are advocating, now we have a permanent directorate that consists of all the political parties that INEC recognizes. And so, whosoever has any idea comes to the directorate, because the directorate is also working hand in hand with INEC. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Haja. Please, a round of applause for her, and a round of applause for IPAC as well. A lot of vision, a lot of action plan. We'll come back to that, but let me come to Alhaji Muhammad Nalado. He's the former IPAC chair and also the former chairman of our Accord Party. Now, she talked about, states, and, listening to the keynote speaker and also furthering that conversation, we have only about 55 women occupying elected positions in the state houses of assembly out of 990 legislative seats. So that is an abysmal number. And when you look at other countries like Algeria, I mean, the numbers may not be too many. They have at least about 23 seats out of 140. You look at countries like Benin Republic, they have about 11%. You look at countries like even Burundi, amongst others. And those are political party voluntary quotas. I'm not even talking about legislative. Now, it's important what she has said, but when you look at political party organizing and you look at political party authority, the chairman is the supreme. They make all the decisions, at least what we know. How important is it for political parties to really be firm and really look at directing this conversation? Because if you look at IPAC, it's filled with a lot of men. We don't have a female chairman yet. So it is the men now driving that conversation. How important is this right now?
Thank you very much for that question.
Excuse me, I think it's the first question to me.
Yes.
Thank you very much, moderator. I would like to divert a little from the question you raised. I want to look back at how we political parties started in Nigeria. If you look at the setup of the hierarchy of political party leadership in Nigeria today, it's far different from where we started or how we started. We used to have, traditionally, only women leaders in place in the executive of all political parties in Nigeria. Even when we had 92 political parties, it was so. But today, with the intervention of IPAC, things have changed. The narration has changed now. So many political parties have more than one woman in the lineup of their executive. This didn't come just like that as a surprise. It came through the struggles made by the leaders of Inter-Party Advisory Council. And I would like to cite my own political party today, Accord, as one of the examples of the progress we have made in the women inclusivity in our political party. I think today, Accord has the best. Because, yes, Accord has the best. One, I have reason for that. We have many more women in our ESCO, in the direction of our working committee members. And apart from the chairman, who is a male, the next person is a woman, who is the deputy national chairman of the party, is a woman. The national secretary of the party is a woman. So in the absence of the chairman, ACORD will have representation of all women as chairman and secretary. And there are other positions that are being held by women in the political party. So it's a very good step forward by political parties. And I want to go back to your question today. First, I would like to start by thanking the Westminster Foundation and the Interparty Advisory Council for organizing this roundtable. And this is one of the key things that IPAC has been doing. We started when we were in the IPAC. Our time was like an analog system, but it has now been digitalized. What we are seeing in IPAC today is progress every day. I want to thank the leadership of IPAC for these things they are doing. They are building from where we stopped. And every good leader wants to see progress in whatever he has left in his position when he was in the position. And the IPAC of today is doing very, very well. And I have said the times without number, though I have been a women inclusivity advocate for a very long time. I have played so many roles even before I became the national chairman of IPAC. We have raised so many voices in encouraging women to participate in decision-making in political parties. But we have made tremendous successes, but we have some setbacks. If you go to our assembly, National Assembly, you see that the number is reducing every year. Every year of election, you see the number is declining. Why? It's because maybe the supporting agencies that are supposed to, support Nigeria to realize that dream is not doing enough. Not that they are not making enough contacts, but they are misplacing the priority. You know that political party is the only vehicle that anybody can use to get into political appointment or position in this country. So why are you leaving political parties behind? Why are you giving more consideration to NGOs? I'm not against CSOs, but I think political party, like especially IPAC, that is the umbrella of all political parties, supposed to be given more consideration. IPAC is not a political party. IPAC can be funded.
Okay.
If these supporting agencies can be funding IPAC, I believe we would have gone much, much further than where we are today.
All right.
IPAC is supposed to be given a good consideration. You can see the transformation we have in IPAC today. When we started IPAC, that was around 2006. IPAC had only male representation in its executive. But today we have about 3 out of 9 ESCO members. So we are making progress.
Absolutely.
And if you want to get it right, support IPAC. IPAC will have the know-how to make women to occupy more positions in decision-making in this country.
Give a round of applause to that. And that's why we're having this conversation.
Thank you,
as one of those inroads. Now, let me come to you, Dr. Sonia Ago. You're the ECHO's Women and Youth Ambassador. You've listened to the chairman there, the former chairman. You've also listened to Hajia speak about some of their inroads. But let's look at the conversation on amplifying this issue. One, not just about it as an extra sit bill, but as a national discourse. I say this because 64 years of independence, you're talking inclusive democracy. You're looking at countries that Nigeria is much bigger than they have taken the steps on quota system. I mean, is it the lack of political will, or do you think that there should have been more restructuring in terms of organizing of voices, just like the keynote speaker spoke about?
Thank you very much. First things first, I'd like to, I'd have said stand one people. So I'd like to sit or stand on the protocol. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to everyone that's seated here. Thank you to IPAC. Thank you to all the chairmen and chairwomen and chairpersons who have taken out time to put up this event together. Thank you very much. You don't understand how thrilling this is for me, especially for the fact that I'm a young woman, right? And I've been in Nigeria intentionally for the past 13 years, trying to figure out why the issues that we have are existing. So that when we come to women or girls, for instance, right? Just like he said earlier, our mindset alone needs to first of all be changed or worked on. As a woman, you are not even, it's not expected of women to vouch or garner or look for or inspire to fill up political positions, not to even talk of, ruling or driving a particular car. So when you ask me that, to answer your question, first things first, I think is the mindset. We need a mindset change. Women need to understand that as much as men are leaders, quote unquote, women too can lead. I was in Gambia in 2016 when the president invited a few young persons. And one of the take home for me was that 30% of their bill stated that women and youth must be represented. It's a law. And if you imagine we had such a thing in Nigeria where we said every cabinet, every political party, or every organization had 30% representation of both women and youth, you'd see that we've already solved most of these issues. But again, standing on what Ajia has said, imagine that even happened today. How many women are ready? So the fact that we're taking this time out, that's why I'm very happy to be part of such, to even sit on this platform is such an honor. And to have people like IPAC, I'm very, very grateful to have you guys, because it means that if I'm sitting here, there's hope for another young girl out there. There's hope for other young women. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Please, another round of applause for her. Thank you, Dr. Sonia, for that. Let me come to Jide, because I know that this is an area that you have often had conversations on, especially in terms of the implications and the objectives. And the keynote speaker spoke something, and even though it was succinct, he talked about the need that this is a collective conversation. It is not just down to the women community. It is not just down to the CSOs, but it's also about every Nigerian citizen. And like she said, and I would affirm, about the next generation of girls as well. In your work and in your conversation so far on the extra seats, what do you think in terms of electoral reforms that can also look at opening conversations and leading the charge for this? A lot of people have said, if we had independent candidates, it could help, but we don't look at this from the perspective of an electoral reform. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think it's still morning. Good morning, everyone. For me, there are multiple layer advocacy that needs to happen for us to have equity, gender equity. The speaker have spoken to issue of legal reform, and that is one of the pathways. When I was in Uganda in 2016, I realized that Section 78 of the Ugandan Constitution actually created those seats that are exclusive to women. And so when people are saying, oh, Museveni has been there for 35 years, they are not seeing the plurality of the parliament of Uganda and how that has impacted governance in that Central African country. So one of the veritable platforms is to have this special seat. However, this one that is being proposed by Deputy Speaker, I have issues with it. And my issue basically is that it's talking about 16 years of affirmative action for over 300 years of discrimination and marginalization. That is in itself not equitable. That's not fair. So even if you have, in the next round of electoral reform, you have those special seats, you are saying it will be for 4 electoral cycles. Why not for 100 years electoral cycle? if we realize what we are missing by not mainstreaming gender into our national polity, we will even talk about 50-50. Because the Scandinavian countries that have adopted gender equality, you see the gross domestic product, their standard of living, their governance is way out of this world, even better than US. But here we are still talking about the June, very few seats. Even if we have these seats, it will just move the needle a bit. Maybe one spot. Because we are still going to retain 360 seats. You are still going to retain 109 seats in Senate. You are still going to retain 993 seats in State House of Assembly that will be open for competition. And we know the outcome will still be against women. So even if you now have 100 seats spread across both national and state, what will be the ratio of increase that you will have in the parliament? Maybe you move from 4% to 7%. So, has that solved the problem? The question is no. So, we need that. We even need bigger advocacy, and these are my own opinion. Yes, we need independent candidacy. 2 days ago, myself and IPAC chairman were guests on Good Morning Nigeria on NTA, and we were discussing issues around independent candidacy. But as sexy, as seducing as that is, it presents its own challenges. Because you may have to spend a lot more resources to win election as an independent candidate. You won't have party platform. You need 10% of registered voters to endorse your candidacy, and this has to still be verified. And then you have to, the whole thing of running an independent campaign office, that you have to pay for all the services, no party support. So it still comes to the fact that if you don't have money, as Davido said, if you don't get money, hide your face. You don't have money, you will still not get far with whatever advocacy you are making. Because part of the challenges is we must understand that is militating against gender equality in Nigeria are patriarchy, violence, money, and a lack of due process. We have gender policy that just got reviewed last year. How much implementation have we brought to bear on that national gender policy? Mr. President, President Tinubu promised during his campaign that he was going to give women 35%. I was expecting that with the cabinet reshuffle, we are going to have significant improvements in the number of women that will be appointed. But I was disappointed because you sacked 4 women and replaced with 2. Don't be deceived. Better Edu was the first to be sacked, so you have 3 others that joined 2 days ago. So 4 women removed, 2 replaced. Where does that take us? So our advocacy should be to the president. President Tinubu, these are your commitments. You said in your 8-point renewed hope agenda, this is what you are going to do. Why are you not doing it? He made that commitment to us. And I believe, given the influence that the president has on the National Assembly, if he decides that even with the existing structure, that we want to alter and have 1/3 of seats in the parliament reserved for women, without even the additional seats, is doable. It is doable. You can say, out of every 3 senatorial seats that you currently have, 1 should be a woman. Out of the 366, you want to see 120 that are women in the next round of election. And that will happen because we have an executive president who has very good relationship with the National Assembly, who also has very good relationship with the Governors Forum. So we need this advocacy, but more importantly, where are the women in party? And this is where the challenge is to our political parties. Look at your membership register. what is the percentage of women on this register? Is it up to 50%? Is it up to 30%? Because when these seats are eventually created, it will not be for reference, and it should not be come and chop. People who have paid dues are the ones that should take the primary, benefit of this. So it is also for the 19 political parties to embark on membership drive with conscious effort to woo young ladies, market men and women. And the population shows that we have more women than men. So we need to have targeted recruitment, conscious, intentional recruitment of women into our political parties. Because nothing for us without us. You cannot be asking men to cede position for you when you are not ready to play a leadership role. So women groups must also join political parties to amplify this advocacy, and I want to recognize and commend my sister, Tom Okewale, who is the first person to establish Women Radio. She just a couple of weeks ago had a summit here in Abuja that also speaks to this issue of gender inclusion. And I must single out the governor of Kwara State for what he's doing in terms of women inclusion in governance. I think that is exemplary, and that should be replicated across the 36 states and FCT. So these are, he or she that we need to continue to encourage and engage. But most importantly, we need this charity to begin at home. The ruling party, APC, you have National Working Committee. How many women are in that committee? We need to have that 35% in the NWC, and from the local government, from the world executive through to local government, through to state working committee, down to national working committee. When you start to have this position, and I want to commend the Accord Party for what they said they are doing, it's important to laud and to recognize that feat, but we need it across the 19 political parties that you must have this 35% from the executive position of the various political parties. From that, it will be easier when you are having delegates towards the general elections to have women who are showing interest as aspirants to get delegates to support them. But situations where you have 1 or 2 out of 30, out of 25 executives, their voice will be drowned. So we need that charity to start from the various political parties. If they need to alter their constitution, let them do so at their next convention. To say we want to reserve or we want to encourage at least 30% of our seats within our party structure across all levels, we want to have it reserved or competed favorably for by women. Then, from that stand, we will make the needed change in the legal structure at the constitutional level. And, of course, it's a welcome idea to have independent candidacy because some of us abhor partisan politics. So if we don't want to have, let that platform also be there for those who have, the richest woman in Africa is a lady. So what if she wants to contest to be governor of her state? She doesn't have to go through partisan politics to achieve that in the event that there is a provision for independent candidacy. So we need multiple platforms, but these are top of my head, some of the things we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jide, for that. Very, very detailed and quite insightful. And I hear mobilization, participation, preparation. Please, another round of applause for him. 3 key layers, especially with women joining political parties. Let me come to Dr. Mustafa Abdullahi, Principal Lecturer, Department of Social Development, Kaduna Poly. He said something, he says he doesn't agree with the Deputy Speaker on this somewhat almost called it adventure of the numbers. And I say that because I will take it from their reason for giving us 74. They talked about, being weary of having a bloated legislature. When you hear that kind of narrative, I mean, do you think there is also the essence of pushing this conversation forward politically in terms of having political will?
And all members of this great gathering today, I want to start by standing on the existing protocol while sitting down on this side of the aisle. So the presentation from Jide to me, I think, have some issues that we have to straighten out in the political context of Nigeria as a nation and as a developing country. The polity in Nigeria, as our key presenter have shown, is patriarchal in orientation. It is male-dominated for several years, even before the advance of the military. When the military came and left, by 1999, we have 25 years of uninterrupted democracy in Nigeria, which is a plus to the nation. From all indications and in all the statistics available, women are underrepresented. This is the reality of the matter. If we are talking about gender equity, equality is very, very hard up to now to establish based on the biological, other physical features that determine men and women. So if we say equity, let's look at our statistics and the population. It will always show you from the onset that yes, men come to this world more than women, but the crisis of existence whereby men engage in the most hazardous and other forms of life activities do away with the men as we grow into 30 and 40 and left women with the problem and the issues of our society that define another phenomenon, which is feminization of poverty. Now, there are laws in Nigeria which establish the democracy and which create the House of Assembly and the National Assembly as the apex of legislative business in the country. If you take the statistic, it is 3 senates per state. For now, what we have, the percentage from 1999 is that women are under 10% in that representation. Women are the key political factors. If you go to grassroots democracy, they are the key mobilizers and organizers in elections. They mobilize. They are there, they are very many. But the space is too chunked up by the capacity of the men. And in this way, I will also highlight a point made by Prof. That are women ready? Women are ready politically. Believe you me, women are ready politically. You need to just go and see what happened during the local government elections in some of the states where we come from. They are always there, they are the organizers. But the politics is too tough for them. Therefore, this bill, which seeks to establish this special seat for them, it's not saying something extraordinary. It's saying, let's create this political space for them for 2 reasons. One of the reasons is to enhance women political participation. Number 2 is to give them room to also have political space to contest, produce candidates among themselves. Prof have highlighted some of the challenges. The unity in the women. Women from the informal side of the divide, which are many, and women from the formal side of the divide, which are many. Grassroots women. How do you synergize to produce among yourself? And in the context of the bill, as we are meant to understand, for these 16 years, is experimentation. In a democracy that is 25 years, you create 16 years, say, okay, women, you are saying you are underrepresented. We want to add you now at both national and the state level to the tune of 219 as the bill is processing. We give you this trial for these 16 years coming. Try to demonstrate your capacity, and then let's see how you are going to compete with us more favorably in the other 3 senatorial seats. If we take Senate as our example, is a drive towards actualizing the context of majoritarian democracy. Why? Because the way it is, women are the majority in our society, whether we like it or not. Are the men giving them effective representation? Men are trying. But women problem is women problem, as some of the popular adage that who sits in the house know where it leaks the most. So if we give them this capacity, We are enthroning to them that you are challenging our patriarchal nature. Okay, this is a space, a little bit of space for you to demonstrate. Now, it will raise another issue, which, of course, the bill have taken care of. That is the cost of governance. Yes, the cost of governance now is high, and Nigeria's nation, as all of us know, is trying. But in my own understanding and conclusion, it will overcome. Nigeria shall overcome as a nation. We have passed through these phases, and we have seen things happen like this. So if we analyze the cause, Prof has made his own analysis on the cause, which is on the lower side. I made mine from the documents I got from Revenue Mobilization, Mobilization and Allocation and Fiscal Committee. The cost of this 219 legislative expansion we want to have in the state and national body will amount to at least 19 billion. What it is now currently that runs the National Assembly annually is around 104, 105 billion. So if you take the addition of the cost, it's 17% of what is currently attainable in the nation. So Nigeria can afford 17 billion experiment for women. And if we take it for that 16 years, we are looking at 60 billion. I believe we'll overcome, and I believe this bill is here at the right time. And if it got support of IPAC and other political parties that are here that will buy in and chip in, women will go a long way into situating our democracy as one of the finest democracies in the developing country, Nigeria. This is my take.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Mustafa Abdullahi. Let me come back to you, Hajia, before I come for questions and perhaps feedback. Collaboration, partnership. If you look at the number of women registered to vote, they're almost more than the men, 49.5 million. And that is such a huge currency. You also have an organization like the League of Women Voters in Nigeria. How do you harness the population of women voters? Because Jide talked about mobilizing, asking more women to join political parties. How do you go about that?
Thank you, Adorable Adora. I have mentioned earlier that the Directorate is collaborating with like the First Ladies, the political parties, and then we are also into partnership and collaboration with development partners, with various organizations, with donor agencies to mobilize and then harmonize our efforts for advocacy so that we can have a division of labor, so that we are not just out there repeating ourselves. This organization, this is your strength. This organization, you are better at this. This organization, you are better at the grassroots. You are Abuja politicians, take care of the National Assembly. You are, yes, you are urban, rural, strong stakeholders, take care of our rural stakeholders. I have also mentioned that we are cascading our structures. So it means we are taking care of Abuja to unit level. Of course, we are also partnering with organizations for sensitization. Women are underrepresented, and now we have a bill that has passed first reading that is meant for women to be given special seats, which means equity. Someone who is on the someone who is disadvantaged is brought a little bit at par to someone who has been advantaged right from creation. And so we are strongly partnering with all the necessary organizations and all the institutions and the associations that are into this advocacy business so that we forge a direction and then achieve our goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please, a round of applause for her. All right. So I see a lot of people raising hands, and I think, Comrade Chinedu, I think this is a good time to wade in and get some feedback and questions. Right at the right side of the hall, far There's a young lady there. Please introduce yourself and your question, and to whom your question is directed at. Thank you. Yes, please. Yes, the lady, yes, the one standing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I really wanted to speak, so I made sure I raised my hand very well. Thank you. My name is Faith Waziri, and I work with Women in Politics Forum. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Jide for pointing out the fact that 16 years is too small to address an issue we're talking about for that's been around 4 years, 4 centuries even. My question here is to Honor. I know that you are no longer the current Accord chair, but you are the one that's representing past chairman on the panel. So my question will be to you. As much as we are advocating for these seats to come to fruition, we hope that we will not now see instance where political parties during primaries will not want to give women seats to become candidates for other positions that are outside the special seats, because then it would defeat the purpose of what we are going for. In the last election, we had about 15,000 candidates, and we only had women that were about 1,500 candidates, which already lowered the chances of women. And I know that we have gone through the constitution of some political parties, and I know that there's provision to mainstream gender in politics constitution. So that's my constitution. That's my question. Are parties making sure that they would have structures to ensure that women are not removed out from contesting, or are not sidelined from becoming candidates for other seats outside the special seats that we are clamoring for now? Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. I think the young man. Yes, please. Oh, he looks very young. From here. Sorry about that.
Thank you so much. My name is Ojo Noko. I'm a media consultant. I align with the position of Jidojo that this, when you're asking for something, it is not. I think what they are doing for this in terms of the bill right now is patronizing. We should insist for the 109 seats for the Senate, a seat should be reserved for women. For the House of Reps, you should reserve seats for women. That is the way out, not special seats. We should not be patronizing. We should take women as equals in this. Thank you.
All right, and the final one in front, the lady in blue. Please can you, yes, wearing a blue turban. Okay. Please introduce yourself. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Honorable Irene Awunaike. I'm the President League of Women Voters of Nigeria. So my question, first and foremost, is to the political parties. The NILOV as an organization has looked at all your constitutions, and you have said that, all have said they will reserve 25%, some even said 35% of their political structure to women. And that is not the reality on ground, because that is where we have to start from. If you hear the submission of my brother Jide, these are the delegates, the automatic delegates that vote for candidates. That's where we have to start from. So if, first and foremost, apart from the special seats, which for me I'm not convinced, I don't need to repeat what the last speaker just said, let us have political parties give women 35%. Our affirmative action says across board. It means both appointive, elective, and within political parties. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Please, a round of applause for the, see lots of hands. Okay, so let's get the answers from our panelists first. And all right, fantastic. Chief Dan Wayan wants to deal with the question directly and immediately.
Mr. Chairman, IPAC, our discussants, I want to respond to, my name is Dan Wayan, MNI OFR. I'm National Chairman, Zenith Labour Party. I want to respond to the question asked by the representative from Women in Politics. Your president, I brought her into politics. A very friend. I think she's in South Africa today. She didn't want to come before. I dragged her. She became the national women leader of Labour Party. Then I was leading the Labour Party. From there, she took off. We have done that like in other political parties. Nalado did a lot. I got chairman as IPAC chairman. As he said, the current leadership has improved on what they left behind. He said they were analog then. Now these people have gone internet. You see, like in Zenith Labour Party, we had over 10 members in the National Working Committee when we started. Close to the election, they started jumping to PDP, APC, and all that. I said, where are you going? Because we don't have deep pocket in Zenith Labour Party. They left. Now some of them are applying to come back. We have told them that Zenith Labour Party is not a clearing house. As at now, we have 4 states manned by women in Nigeria. We had the treasurer, the financial secretary, the accountant of Zenith Labour Party. All of them are women. So there has been conscious effort by political parties to give women opportunity to come into the mainstream politics. Just like the guest speaker said, it's when you have come in, they test you, they push you. I've always talked about Hajia Zainab. She's a capacity woman. I won't be surprised tomorrow she's a minister.
Please, a round of applause to that.
Because she has shown herself to understand not only political party structures and administration, even the main thing of governance. It is not enough to say, women, let's go. Yes, we'll give you opportunity. The opportunities are there. But are you ready and willing to take up those opportunities?
Thank you.
If you're a man, you're not a woman. I'm asking of women. So you see, we allow women. What I'm saying, every political party will take, there are conscious efforts. We have discussed it in IPAC. Now you have more women in IPAC leadership, unlike before. They have sensitive positions. The problem is not whether the opportunities are there.
Yes, sir.
It's how many women are ready and willing.
Right.
And to be consistent. You see, you don't hear wham, you just jump. There are many, with greatest respect, women like that. We have trained many. Why I picked women in Nigeria is because her president, I brought her into politics.
Okay.
I trained her, and I'm proud of her. No, she's good. She's still in the system. So I'm proud of her. So women, young women, just like Zainab said, they want to go down under the commission to start recruitment, to have more women. It's not something you do one day. Find those that are sharp. For you to challenge that man, you must be as good, if not better than him. If you allow men, they will not allow you. You remember the time we have problems, a woman will want to contest election, they say, go to your father's place. By the time you run back to your father's place, they will ask you, have you not married? Why are you still here? These are some of the problems. But I can assure you, political parties, Mr. Chairman, I hope I'm speaking your mind, political parties are ready and willing to deepen the involvement of women, not only in the party leadership, but also in governance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I think the next question was directed at Jide. You know, he spoke about 16 years not being enough and almost compensatory. You talked about executive bill. Is that achievable to solve that demand?
Well, like I said, and let me appreciate WFD, Westminster Foundation for Democracy, for all the great things they've done and they are still doing. Because one of the last exercises in which I was involved was having the National Women Leadership Forum operational guidelines. And Madam is here, who is leading that pack. And I believe in the coming months, the impact of having National Women Leadership Forum will manifest, just like WFD also did for IPAC to have its first of its kind strategic plan, which I'm also involved in crafting. So WFD, you have your flowers. But you see, it's going to be multiple approach, no matter the way you look at it. Appointive, elective. Our advocacy should cut across board, as I've said, across the political party leadership, across the governance systems already existing. I've given the example of Kwara State government that have done so much to encourage women in appointive positions, commissioners, and other executive positions that have been given to women. And I'm saying, let's replicate that across the state. From appointed position, you build capacity, and then when you contest election, you will have matured. It's like a footballer. A footballer that joins a club at 16 will not peak until maybe 25, 28, 30. So if you start, and I should commend President Tinubu for one, creating Ministry of Youth and appointing youth to lead that. You know, that is also commendable. Aside from that, what we are doing is Oliver Twist. Women need more. There is no plane that flies with a wing unless it's an helicopter. There is no way you clap with one hand. You need the two, male and female, to participate inclusively in governance, in politics, in elections. And that's why there are different pathways that we need to tread. Appointive, elective, and in terms of even policy change. We have national gender policy, and I think this is part of what the advocacy should be about. This document must be understood inside out, particularly with the revisions that have been made to the last one. And if you need to break it down into frequently answered questions and leaflets, you know, these advocacy materials, you go meet the national governor, Nigerian Governors Forum. If you don't have the resources to meet them individually in their state, they have meeting here in Abuja. They are part of the National Executive Council. Yes. Meet with them, 10 minutes of their time, tell them what you need. And if they are able to buy it, because even the constitutional alteration we're talking about, without the governors buying in, is dead on arrival. Because if the National Assembly passes it, and the governors tell their speakers of House of Assemblies not to support it, it will just be like the case of local government autonomy. You know how many years we have been at it before the Supreme Court made that decision? Even with the Supreme Court decision, some governors are reviewing that Supreme Court decision. And some have gone back to Supreme Court to review itself. It shows lack of commitment. And these are roadblocks that we need to overcome if we want to see significant improvement in the number of women in elective and appointed positions. I've also talked about the need to visit Mr. President and his wife. They are also gender advocates. I know the role that Mr. President has played in nurturing and ensuring that there are women deputy governors in the Southwest, not only in Lagos alone, but in the Southwest, not only during his own administration, but in succeeding administration after him. Unfortunately, up to today, why Kenya has 6 women governors as of 2022? 6 female governors. Nigeria is yet to produce one. Is that not a shame? So these are some of the things we need to tell Mr. President to his face. To say, Mr. President, we want you to have a legacy, a national legacy, that you are the one that produced the first female governor for Nigeria. You are the one that produced reserve seat for Nigeria. And I believe if Mr. President buys into this advocacy, he submits an executive bill to the National Assembly, and he has conversation with the governors, it's a done deal. So whether you are having addition or you are using the existing elective position, you need the buy-in of President Tinubu, unless we want to deceive ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a round of applause. A round of applause. Yeah, Haji Zainab, you wanted to quick.
I really want to thank the Westminster Foundation. They are one of our partners, of course, and backbones. And I want to go into the issue of 16 years. I think it's not enough, but it's a starting point. Yes, I was at the National Assembly with the former First Lady when 5 women gender bills were thrown out. And if by any means you don't lobby this male-dominated National Assembly, you cannot have any bill passed. If you watch the day the bill passed its first reading, we will just have to be thanking God that the Deputy Speaker was in charge that day. Dines was louder, but he hit the gavel because he was committed. And so if the Deputy Speaker will attempt to say he is proposing a bill for 100 years for women, you won't have one year. So I think a step at a time. Let's start from somewhere. It's the bill seeks for equity now. We are not talking about equality. It seeks for equity. So let us support the Deputy Speaker and have this bill passed. Let us start from somewhere. The Beijing conference, how many years from today? What is the impact? But if we have this bill passed, we are going to have 70-something static, permanent, long-term, I would call it permanent, long-term seats for women. And whenever you pick up the data, you don't even have to check anywhere. You know the number of women you are expecting in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, in the state houses of assembly. So I think I support having a limited number of years for the bill. Let us start from somewhere, because it's a male-dominated National Assembly. Women do not have voice. It's just the commitment and the friendliness of the Deputy Speaker to even come up with that bill. So I don't think we should be knocking it. Please, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let us support it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so let's have the, of course, our host, the chairman, IPAC, say something to this regard, because somebody asked the question about political party 25% quota for women's participation in the NWC, and it's hardly there.
Thank you so much. I want to speak to the women directly. The Yoruba said, "Ashe onigbagbo," the authority of the believer. And I think in Obama's Audacity of Hope, this thing is psychological. You can't win if you don't believe you can. Women, you have everything it takes to get what you want. But within you, you have defeated yourself because you believe nobody win election in this country without overwhelming support of the women. Nobody. If you have the women, you have the youth, you are done. So if you have that instrument to make somebody win election, why can't you use that to fix yourself where you belong? Because you are afraid of nothing? Nobody will continue to. You have to take this thing. You can't take it. But if you believe in yourself and come together as one. Women are not meant to be slaves to men. No. I'm a Muslim. My religion didn't teach me that. And I don't think the Christian religion will teach anybody that the women are men's slaves. We are partners. We complement one another. As a student of sociology, if you quantify the role of women financially, the men cannot pay the women for being a wife, for being a cook, for being a mother, for being a nurse. You can't pay. So you must come together. You must work on your psychology. It is not about fight. Historically, in the Second World War, the first one, I don't know, that the black man out of slavery believed that the white man is God until they fought side by side in the war. And the white man died the same way the black man died. So the black man also, so these people actually, this man, so they are not God. So this God actually died. So at that point, the black man now believed, okay, so we are almost, we are human. They are not God that we think they are. So that was the beginning of the mental awakening for the black man to seek independence. So when you say they give us, let them give. No, you can't take it. Sir, you can't take it. They have the arsenal. They have the population. No woman is meant to be any man's slave, sir. No. So they are not coming to fight. But they should, where they are, today, if you look at the population of armed robbers, population of kidnappers, the population of women in some of these social vices, they are insignificant. They are not even there. So, as mothers, as wives, we believe if you take your place in the scheme of affairs politically, we will do better as Nigeria. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I think I saw more women clap. All the men, please clap. You made a very distinct statement. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think I'll just end this with the quote from Sirleaf Johnson Sirleaf, former president of Liberia. She said, "The success of any society depends on the full participation of all its citizens, including women." And that means that, like Hajia said, a step in the room is the first process. And Jide also made a point. If we can also get the heart of Mr. President to advance the cause, then we'll have a bouquet of actions that have been delivered. I want to say thank you to my panelists, Dr. Sonia Agu, ECOWAS Women and Youth Ambassador. Also, I've had Hajia Zainab Ibrahim, Deputy Zonal Woman Leader, All Progressive National APC, I beg your pardon, and Dr. Mustafa Abdullahi, Principal Lecturer, Department of Social Development, Kaduna Polytechnic, Jide Ojo, Developmental Consultant and Public Affairs Analyst, and Alhaji Muhammad Naladio, the former IPAC Chair and Party Chairman of our Accord Party. Please, ladies and gentlemen, help appreciate and applaud this panelist. Thank you. And that also brings us to the end of this panel. But let's also have a group picture just before they leave, if we can stand. Photographer. With the chairman and the keynote speaker as well. And Chief Dan, please, we will have you here as well for this picture. And Dr. Amina, please, would you like the pleasure? And the representative of the APC National Chairman, if you can come here. And the Executive Secretary of the Kuka Center, please, sir, if we can have you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nabira. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Judy. All right. Please, can we settle down? We all settle down. Thank you. So can we all settle down? We still have our goodwill messages coming up shortly. Thank you very much.
Please, can we please settle down, please? Thank you very much, please.
All right, would like to recognize the presence of Mr. Graham Gass, First Secretary and Senior Advisor, British High Commissioner, representing the Deputy High British Commissioner here. Thank you so much. We'll see you. Thank you. We also want to recognize Juliana Stoyaneva. She's also the Governance Advisor here as well, British High Commission. Thank you so much for coming. And we also would like to recognize Dr. Ndanusa Manzuma, representing the DG National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies. Thank you so much for joining us. So we'd like to call on Mr. Graham Gass, First Secretary and Senior Advisor, British High Commissioner, representing the Deputy British High Commissioner, for his goodwill message. Please, a round of applause for him.
Good afternoon. Is it working? It is working. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the kind introduction. Mr. Chairman, Yusuf, Dantale, Professors Ikuchukwu and Jega, distinguished ex-panelists, and everybody in the room. I'll stand on established protocol. We used to say all protocols observed, but it seems like that's not the norm anymore, so it's good to see that norms can change. First of all, just to pass on regrets from the Deputy High Commissioner. She is unavoidably detained, and I got a call whilst I was lying in bed this morning at about 8:30 to ask if I would substitute, and I'm happy to do so. Very happy to do so. I should say maybe just quickly, my credentials. My name is Graham Gass. I'm a Senior Social Development Advisor in the FCDO at BHC Abuja. It means that I'm the technical lead on gender equality and women and girls and social inclusion. But more importantly, I think I started working first in Nigeria in 1996. I've worked here for about 11 years in total between then and now. And most importantly of all, I'm married to a Nigerian. She go here. as they say. I will pass on the applause. But even more importantly, I have two daughters who are at least half Nigerian. I think the second one is more than half Nigerian, to be fair. You know, she has that energy, that enthusiasm, that zest for life that I associate so much with Nigeria and my time in Nigeria. What I wish for them is a fair chance, if they choose to do so, to sit in either our Houses of Parliament or your National Assembly. I'm not sure we're quite there yet, but this is, you know, they say that the personal is political. The political is also personal, and I feel like I have a stake in some of these issues. So these are my credentials anyway. Regrets once again. Now I will get back to the script. I'm honored and happy to be with you today. I want to commend the chairman and the Inter-Party Advisory Council for all their hard work and commitment in bringing us together here today. I also wanted to thank the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, as others have done, for supporting this valuable initiative. How Nigeria organizes itself and its internal governance is for Nigerians to decide completely. As a long-standing and trusted friend of Nigeria, the UK is hugely encouraged by the progressive steps of political parties and citizens' representatives in the National Assembly towards introducing the Special Seats Bill. This hopefully will increase and strengthen the voice and representation of women in Parliament. And why is this important? We've heard a bit around this. Let me add our own quota, as you say, to this. Nigeria stands as a beacon of democracy in Africa. You don't need to look very far from the borders of Nigeria to see that that's the case. As a result, it's not right or proper that Nigeria should be at the bottom of any list of African or countries globally that speaks to social, economic, and political indicators. It should not be the bottom of the African list on women's political empowerment. Can't be right. In society at large in Nigeria, for every Nigerian woman, roughly, there stands a single Nigerian man. But if you go to the National Assembly, for every Nigerian woman, there are 22 men. To state the obvious, I don't think I need to state it, it's been said before, this doesn't seem very representative, right? We know, moving on from that, we know that gender equality and parity don't come easily. The issues that you're talking about today resonate so strongly with me. I was involved in many conversations, I hate to say it, 20 years ago, that resonate very much as I listen to the panelists and the speakers today. Gender equality and parity don't come easy. But greater representation of women in Parliament brings better governance. This is the evidence that we know from Nigeria to some extent, but also from other African countries and from countries around the world. This progress benefits not only women, but everybody in society. Countries with higher representation of women in Parliament see greater investments across the board in public health and education, benefiting children, the elderly, and marginalized communities. Women's representation drives lower levels of corruption too. Female lawmakers tend to support laws and policies that improve labour market outcomes for both men and women, boosting productivity and economic development. When women participate in peace negotiations, agreements are more likely to last, bringing more sustainable peace and prosperity for all. Finally, women's representation promotes more inclusive and participatory governance, as female leaders will tend to engage in collaborative and democratic decision-making processes. Political parties play a crucial role in advancing gender equality. Progressive parties often push for legal reforms that improve women's rights and protections. By prioritizing gender-balanced candidate lists and adopting gender quotas, parties can enhance women's representation in the legislative and executive branches of government. In the UK, our democracy is by no means perfect, as you will all be aware. But the UK's Labour Party introduced an all-women shortlist in 2010, and this form of voluntary party quota has made a big impact on gender parity in the UK Parliament. Importantly, political parties shape public opinion. Parties committed to gender equality can use prominent platforms such as IPAC to raise awareness about issues like gender-based violence, workplace discrimination, and harmful gender stereotypes. By highlighting these issues, they contribute to shifting societal attitudes towards more equitable norms. The Special Seats Bill, and I must say I've really enjoyed the discussion today, that we're discussing is a temporary mechanism to achieve gender balance in the National Assembly of Nigeria. It's not about favouring women over men, but about addressing historical imbalances and ensuring fairness in representation and building a better future for all Nigerians. Over 100 countries in the world use reserved seats or other forms of gender quota in their parliaments. All evidence from their experience suggests that if this bill becomes an act, it will give Nigeria renewed energy in their political space and ideas to propel it forward in so many ways, in terms of development, in terms of democracy, in terms of its economy and social progress too. The UK, as always, will be there with you on this issue as on others, standing by whenever we're invited to do so by partners like yourselves in pursuit of this right and very well evidenced goal. Thank you very much for allowing me to share a few thoughts, and we wish you all the best with the Special Seats Bill, and we will continue to be by your side. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause one more time. To also deliver a goodwill message is Honorable Mrs. Amina Derasim Ibrahim, who happens to be the president of the Forum of the National Women Leaders of all political parties in Nigeria. Please, a round of applause as she comes. Please, 2 minutes. 2 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Please, may I stand on existing protocols? The theme of this conference wouldn't have come at a better time. Independence, inclusive democracy, and the options of special seats for women. I want to thank IPAC for organizing this roundtable. But I want to thank WFD for being a worthy partner. All the conversations we've had here today is around women's inclusion and participation. But there are critical stakeholders that will drive this process, and those are the national women leaders. And they are here today. They are the critical stakeholders. Very strong and vibrant women. And I want to thank you because for the past 1 week, it's been a marathon. They've been going on advocacy visits. The WFD actually bettered this forum. And please, a round of applause for them. In the next couple of days, we'll be having the public information designations. We've come up with a document, our action plan. And I want to say we have a charter. Last week we were with the United United Nations Women, they have come out with a charter for women. So there's a lot going on right now. We are going to be visiting Mr. President, the wife of the president, and everybody involved, because the time to have this conversation is now, and the women are ready. And maybe you do not understand how serious this matter is. In the global conversation, Nigeria is nowhere to be found. Maybe you don't understand. And in the African Parliament, Nigeria is not on the chart. That's how serious this matter is. In the African Parliament, in the upper house, you have Rwanda. So you can imagine, and this has happened after the genocide, they were emphatic, dedicated, they knew exactly what they wanted to do. From the units right through, they had women representation. And today they are leading the chart with 61.25%. And the lowest is Gambia with 8.62%. I hate to sound like a broken record. Nigeria is not on that chart because we are 4.7%. In the upper chamber, you have South Africa with 44.44%. And the lowest is Liberia with 6.67%. Nigeria is not on that chart. This is African Parliament. We are not talking of the global conversation. So maybe when you begin to look at the figures, then you know that this is serious business. We can't be giants of Africa and we are nowhere to be found. Our voices are not heard. And then you come back to the House of Assembly, where you have 990 seats and only 48 are occupied by women. You have 360 seats in the House of Representatives, and only 16 are women. In the Senate, where you have 109 seats, only 4 are women. We have talked about parties' policies, but I think that what we are missing out is the gender policy. You talk about the 35%. We've been shouting it, but when you look at the Nigerian Constitution, you look at the party's constitution, you look at our manifestos, the gender policy is neutral. I think that is where the problem is. It's neutral. There's nothing saying this is what the women should get. And so we go into elections struggling with the men because it's neutral. I'm hoping that by the time we leave this place, I wish the party chairman were still here. For Zeni Labour Party, we thank you for what you have done. But for other parties, we are hoping that you will change that in the Constitution. SDP, thank you so much. We are hoping that you will change the gender policy so that we can at least have our 35%. So the women leaders, I want to thank you. We are all here and we are resolute. We are ready to take the fight. Thank you so much for what you have done in the past few weeks. We've been going around for the advocacy visits and we will not stop here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that goodwill message. I want to quickly recognize the National Acting President of the NCWS, which is the National Council of Women Societies. Please, a round of applause. Please. I also want to recognize the National Woman Leader of the APC, representing the National Chairman of APC. Please, a round of applause. The ruling party, of course. Rightly so. So let me call for another quick round of goodwill message. The Executive Director of Kuka Center in the person of Father Atta.
I think 2 minutes is so much even for me. A lot of you may wonder what is a Catholic priest doing here. I'm standing here on behalf of Bishop Matthew Hassan Kuka, the founder of the Kuka Center, and also General Salame Abubakar, the chairman of the National Peace Committee. We work very closely with IPAC. We have a project on political parties. and we did an assessment of the political parties, and a lot of issues needs assessment. Lots of issues really came up. But one of the things I want to mention is about this bill and the role of women. I think something we really have to deconstruct is the perception when we are discussing women. I just feel that they are seen as victims who need to be assisted, who seats needs to be reserved for, seats must be given to them, spaces must be provided for them. And I think if we understand the problem in that manner, it's really going to be tough. If you look at the arguments about what is happening in American politics and the contestation for the seat of the presidency in the US between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, a lot of the black men say we are not going to vote for Kamala Harris simply because she's a woman. The question they're asking is, what is she going to do for us? How is she going to reduce the prices of groceries? How is she going to improve the working conditions, the level of unemployment? So it's not about whether you are a man or you are a woman. The question is, what are the skill sets that you have and you can bring to the table to help turn the economy around, for people to benefit? And I think for me, in the whole of this conversation, what is missing is that very few Nigerian women live in cities. Millions of others live in the villages, at the border communities, completely dispossessed. Some are illiterate, they don't have access to education, and they don't have the skill sets that are required to participate effectively when it comes to democracy and democratic processes. So when you are discussing this, I think of my mother in the village in southern Adamawa, very close to Cameroon. She has never been to school. And I wonder, apart from coming out to line up and vote and maybe be given 2,000 naira, what else can she do? So I think I will stop here. The final recommendation I will provide is that in the long term, I think in this bill we must include education. Education, quality education, critical thinking for women in such a way that women can stand up and fight for themselves. They don't have to wait for a man to give them a seat to sit down. On this note, I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Father Atta. You are almost taking over as a priest. Thank you very much. So we're gradually winding up, and that will take us to another item on the agenda, which is the closing remarks. And to do that is one of our sponsors. In fact, the major sponsor of this event here today. And it's no other person than Mr. Debo Olorunmola, who is the country director of WFD. Please, a round of applause as he comes on stage to give us a closing remark.
Okay, so good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I will also repeat that line. Every other protocol as established, duly and respectfully acknowledged. My name is Adebo Ali Olorumola, and I work for the Westminster Foundation for Democracy. So I bring you greetings from the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, which is an organization that was founded 32 years ago in the United Kingdom with the intention of deepening democracy globally. Specific to Nigeria, we have been working here since 2016 to promote inclusive citizen participation in the democratic process. And of course, a governance that is receptive to the voice of underrepresented groups. And that is why WFB is very interested in the topic of today. Having gone 64 years after independence and having an unbroken over about 25 years of democratic practice, how inclusive are we? And I think the discourse today shows that the journey towards making our democracy inclusive is on course, but we have not gone very far. So the journey is still very far. There's a lot of work to be done. And of course, what I'm excited with the expression here today that shows that we are all eager to ensure that we begin to not only see women, but hear women in the democratic process. Now, I want to commend the leadership of IPAC for working assiduously to get this roundtable to happen. Yes, we provided the support, but they did all the work. And my commendation will include the fact that WFD supported IPAC to come up with a strategic plan, but the strategic plan did not end up on the shelf. IPAC has been running to implement that strategic plan. And that is why we are having the second in the series of topical national roundtable that we are having today. More roundtables are going to be coming on topical national issues. The first one that they had was on the role of the judiciary in the democratic process. And you will agree with me that that was very topical when you consider the rulings and counter rulings that we've been having, and as that has been contributing to the electoral process. Let me say that the discourse on this special seat is very important, and it will not be complete without bringing the political party into the discussion. And that is why we are here today. Why? Because political parties provide the platform for candidates to emerge, and they have to be part of the discourse. We want to see political parties not end the discussion here, but have political parties take position and communicate their position to their elected representatives in both houses, the House of Representatives and the Senate. We want to see members elected in the parliament vote according to their party position on the special seat bill, because this is an opportunity that Nigeria must not miss if we are to reverse the global embarrassment of deficit in representation that we are carrying at the moment. Now, all of this that we have done, that WFD has done, for which IPAC has given commendation, and for which the Forum of National Women Leaders of Political Parties have given commendation, would not have been possible without the support of our colleagues at the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office that have supported us with funding. Please, can we give them a round of applause? Now, interestingly, I must say this here today, that the Deputy British High Commissioner, who regrettably could not be here today because of the demand of duty, is somebody that is very keen to see that we have a very inclusive process. And she has been supportive of the process, and that is why she eagerly, and with her team, provided the support for us to have this roundtable today. For WFD, let me say that we are committed to working with all stakeholders present here today to ensure that we keep the discourse on special seat bill alive, and not only alive, but we get it to the point at which we have the bill passed, and at the end of the day, we begin to see women in parliament. I was checking the committees that we have today in the House of Representatives, and it will interest you to see that we have 174 standing committees, but we have only 17 women, meaning that committees will be discussing issues of importance, but there will be no women representation. The voices of women need to be heard. In the Senate, we have about 73 committees, but we have only 4 women. How many committees can 4 women belong to? Even if they work like horses, they will not be part of discourse on a lot of issues that affect their everyday life. And these are the reasons why our process must begin to become very inclusive. So on this note, on behalf of IPAC and the Westminster Foundation for Democracy, I want to say thank you to everyone here today that has taken out of their very tight schedule to be here. We truly appreciate the contribution of the panelists, the insight that you brought in, our keynote speaker, and even the contribution from the audience. Those were very, in-depth, and of course, has contributed to the giving direction to the discourse. On this note, we say thank you so much, and together we will drive inclusion until we become an inclusive country. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. Please, you can do better, you can do better. Without this noble organization sponsoring this event under the leadership of Mr. Devo, I don't think we'll be here gathered. And I think it's very instructive, and we want to appreciate WFD once more. We're not taking it for granted. We want more of this conversation. We want it to be ongoing. It shouldn't be a one event, because you need to hammer on issues such as this to be able to get the right results. And I hope this partnership will continue beyond this event. So I want to call Mr. Barrister Obidike Okolo, who is one of the chairman, specifically, of the communique drafting committee, to come and take 5 minutes to read out the communique for this roundtable discussion. Please, a round of applause as he comes on stage.
Thank you very much. Permit me to lean on existing protocol already established. This is the communique issued at the end of the second IPAC Policy Roundtable in collaboration with the Westminster Foundation on the theme 64 Years of Independence, Inclusive Democracy, and Options of Special Seats for Women, held at the Shehu Musa Yar'Adua Center on Friday, October 2024. We, the representatives of the political parties, civil society organizations, and stakeholders, gathered at the second Inter-Party Advisory Council Policy Roundtable in collaboration with the Westminster Foundation, recognize that inclusive democracy is essential for Nigeria's progress. As we celebrate 64 years of independence, we acknowledge the critical role women play in shaping our nation's future. Women's participation is vital as they represent more than half of the population. Research shows that countries with safe and enabling environment for women participation produce more inclusive policy outcomes, are more peaceful, have higher economic growth, and more stable democracies. To achieve this inclusive democracy, we must address the underrepresentation of women in governance. The options of special seats for women are critical in promoting gender equality and empowering women to take leadership roles. We commit to fostering dialogue among stakeholders, building capacity, and advocating for electoral reforms to ensure inclusive representation. Hence, our key resolutions are as follows. 1. Inclusive democracy. 2. Special seats bill. 3. Women's representation. And 4. Collaboration. The recommendation are as follows. 1. IPAC has been commended for provoking this conversation, and as such, at such a critical period in the life of our nation's democratic journey. In addition, the National Assembly has been commended for the introduction of the constitutional alteration bills for special seats for women. 2. Need for a multiple-pronged approach to focus on the key pillars of inclusive democracy. These: political equality, irrespective of gender, ethnic origin, socio-economic status, and level of education. Deliberate measures taken to ensure the visibility and representation of marginalized groups like women, minorities, and people with disabilities. Decentralization of power to give lower levels of government and the people some involvement and control so that the decision-making is not dominated by a distant elite or core major groups and interests. Deliberative democracy, which encourages wider deliberative process and processes, wherein the vast perspectives are brought to bear on the making decision processes and equitable policies that reflect the holistic interests of the population. In the electoral reform that will promote inclusive representation. These may include temporary special measures, quotas, or parity laws that must be vigorously pursued by all stakeholders. 3, there should be inclusive party structures to ensure that party leadership and decision-making bodies have equal representation of women and men, and this can be achieved by setting targets or quotas for women's participation in party positions. 4, special seats should be allocated to women in the National Assembly and State Houses of Assembly to address historical underrepresentation. 5, relevant stakeholders should invest more in building capacity to provide leadership training, financial resources, and networking opportunities to support our female politicians. 6, political parties should ensure policies and programs are inclusive and responsive to the needs of all citizens, regardless of gender, ethnicity, or social status. 7, temporary special measures to reserve women-only seats, enabling women to compete in a skewed political environment should be implemented. 8, deliberate collaborations that will foster dialogue and cooperation among stakeholders, including civil society organizations, government institutions, all political parties, to promote inclusive democracy should be encouraged. More specifically, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations, non-governmental organizations, and the civil society organizations are critical stakeholders that must be brought on board to facilitate the achievement of more inclusivity. 9, the need for women to intensify efforts to claim their pride of place in the critical space. 10, the need for existing women organizations to review and take stock of their achievements so far with a and taking back to the grassroots with a deliberate and intentional structure, like the creation of a permanent directorate for women in various institutions for affirmative action. 12, identified obstacles that hinder women's participation in politics, such as cultural and social norms, lack of access to education and resources, and violence against women should be consciously addressed by the government. 13, bearing in mind that the president is an avid crusader for women inclusivity, there is a passionate need to appeal to the president for him to increase and reflect the 35% women participation in his cabinet and governance structure. Also, women organizations and indeed all critical stakeholders should lobby and appeal to the president to support the crusade for more participation of women. 14, the need for a reorientation of the mindset of women in order to confront the inherent and inevitable challenges in politics. 15, the Roundtable commended governors who are gender sensitive in their appointments and challenged others to emulate them. And finally, the need for more support for IPAC to sustain the drive and conversation of these sorts to facilitate and fast-track the achievement of equitable inclusivity and the deepening of democracy. The call to action. We urge all stakeholders to join forces in promoting inclusive democracy, ensuring Nigeria's progress towards a more equitable society. This communique is adopted today, the 25th day of October 2024. Thank you very much.
We can do better, please. A round of applause for Barrister Obirike Okolo for that swift communique. So we are gradually rounding up this occasion, the second IPAC Roundtable. Even though we may not be able to guarantee you that the third IPAC Roundtable will be taking place this year, but we can assure you that if by any chance we're unable to convene the third IPAC Roundtable this year, before the end of the first quarter of next year, definitely we're going to be having the third IPAC Roundtable on another pressing national issue that will be discussed and will profile a way forward. So I want to appreciate everyone for taking our time to be part of this great occasion. And we pray that this conversation would continue beyond this environment. But most importantly today, we want to recognize our national chairman in the person of Alhaji Yusuf Mama Dantale. And I'll tell you why today is also a very great day. Coincidence, you will call it, but today happens to be the birthday of the national chairman of the Interparty Advisory Council. And you understand why we are also excited and happy today. This is a man who believes impossibility is nothing. And he doesn't believe in we can't do it. And that is why IPAC has been moving from one level of glory to another level of glory. And I can assure you that very soon, we're going to be doing something that will shake the foundation of this country. Because we're coming up with a documentary movie titled Unbroken 2.5 Decades. It's going to be a movie that is going to be streamed on Netflix, Amazon. It's going to have a BBC and CNN review. And we're going to commence shooting by the first week of November. And by the grace of God, maybe early in the year, maximum January next year, we're going to premiere this movie. You might be thinking, we are bringing the top A-rated stars to act in this movie. We're going to chronicle what we've gone through in the last 25 years. Somehow, this democracy, despite the challenges, have been sustained. And we owe this resilience to Nigerians who have allowed democracy to thrive. And it will be a time to also retrospect on the way forward. And I know that things will get better and better and better. So without much ado, I want us to just celebrate our national chairman as we rise together to sing a happy birthday song, after which we sing the national anthem. Please, National Chairman, thank you very much for your leadership. You're a wonderful man. We're not telling you this because we are trying to curry favor. You know us. If you are talking about some radical set of executives, they are those that are currently under your leadership. But we want you to know that we appreciate you, not just for your leadership, but for the fact that you've been able to galvanize your people to be able to deliver on the mandate of IPAC. We want to appreciate you. And we pray that God will continue to keep you, strengthen you, and continue to empower you so that collectively we can continue to add our voice to the development of this country. So 1, 2, 3, go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you. Hip, hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip. Please, just 2 minutes. We are playing this so that we listen, then we sing the national anthem. Please, you can have your seat for just 2 minutes.
Darkness. Darkness bowed to the superiority of light to bring forth the dawn of a new era. In this era, the prophecy of an enigmatic greatness was fulfilled through a special envoy created for the purpose. It was an era of joy and jubilation that welcomed a man who would dutifully and selflessly propagate the language of humanity. It is exactly on a day like this that greatness personified was midwifed and born to Nigeria. A true leader, a trailblazer, who has distinguished himself amongst equals in business and philanthropy. An astute statesman, progressive politician, and advocate of equity and social justice. Gifted and experienced political party administrator par excellence. A crystal symbol of uprightness and staunch nationalist. His Excellency, Alhaji Yusuf M. Dantele, you are indeed a true example of grace and divine mercy. The Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, in genuflection joins angels in heaven and Nigerians to celebrate you on a special day that heralded the new era of greater outpour of blessings, grace, abundance, and harvest for mankind. In solemn recognition of the supernatural might of God, we pray for the grace in sound health and long impactful life for you this day and always. Amen. And from all of us at IPAC, we wish you a happy birthday. Congratulations.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to dear one. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. Happy birthday to you once again, sir. Please, let's rise for the national anthem as we close this program. You are the third IPAC Roundtable.